the last 2 years, we've worked with a wonderful institution locally, the Tuskegee Human and Civil Rights Multicultural Center in Macon County. And we've had a chance to do different projects with them that have had wonderful outcomes for students and for the community. And so this year they had a need to work on the life of Isaac Scott Hathaway, who was an artist who came to Tuskegee in 1937, and they have received some materials from his estate, and so in the future they will have an exhibit on Hathaway. One of the things they asked us to do was to work on creating opportunities for the public to learn about Hathaway so that we could create an appetite for interest in Hathaway and his art. He's an interesting figure because he was an artist, but he was an African-American artist who created sculptures, busts, and masks of famous African-American individuals. And so he has a wonderful history and a significant importance to his story. We worked with the center to identify all of the resources that are out there on Hathaway. There's not much scholarship on Hathaway, but we did identify some wonderful partners across the nation. We started delving into Hathaway, who he was, and what his legacy is. As a result of that, we discovered the Federal Writers Project interviewed him in 1939. And so that interview is at the National Archives and also at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And so we took that interview and wanted to do something with it that would allow the public to find out who Hathaway was. And so we went to the Tuskegee University archives and confirmed what we had heard, but we did not know that it was documented as well as it is, that Hathaway taught at Auburn, which was then Alabama Polytechnic Institute, API. He taught here in the summer of 1947. It was fun because Audrey Ross, a student, and I were at the archives and found the letter from Dean Marion Speidel of API, which was basically a letter of reference for Hathaway, talking about him teaching, introducing ceramics in a workshop that summer of 1947, which is 16 years before the integration of Auburn. And so here was a gentleman who was a famous artist in his own right at that time, teaching white students. And we have a picture that all accounts, all the evidence suggests that it is Hathaway teaching at API in 1947, teaching white female students ceramics. And so that really made a connection for us and for the students, that here's someone that we were working on who was a part of Auburn's history as well as Macon County's history. One thing that we wanted to do was to recreate for the public the 1939 Federal Writers Project interview. One of our students, Audrey Ross, took that on, and she knew some students in the theater department who were part of the Mosaic Theater group. And so she invited them to participate, and they created a script based on that interview and based on the letter from Dean Marion Speidel on Hathaway, and created a beautifully produced podcast that the public can listen to understand who Hathaway was, used from the voices of Auburn students. We also wanted to develop some kits, basically some prototypes for things that could be useful for teachers and useful for our students as they work in classrooms. And so through all of these different projects, we wanted an opportunity for the public to experience who Hathaway was, for students to really get a chance to work in a community and to take some risks, to figure out, will this idea work? Some ideas never work like you want to, but until you try something, you can't learn from it. And so the students got to meet people in the community on a regular basis. One of the most important, exciting times, I think, was our first meeting at the Tuskegee Center, where we met with local people who were part of a steering committee for the project. We told them about the project, asked their advice, and then we asked them, where is Hathaway buried? And someone knew, at the historic Greenwood Cemetery in Tuskegee. And so after our meeting, several of us took off with local people and found Hathaway's headstone. And I think for students to be able to discover something like that with local people, and for local people to know that students care and want to learn about what is happening in their community or what has happened in their community, is very fulfilling for everyone.